there, and a very warm welcome to It Is What It Is with Omoyo Favor, the captain. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for the likes, the shares, the views, and the subscriptions. May the Lord do you well. We are still looking into the ways in which the ancient dragon captures its victims into its mouth. And like I said last week, I really thank God we are approaching the end of this series. Now, kama uko pale and you've not yet subscribed to this channel, please do so. May the Lord do you well. Today, we are going to look at desperation as a way in which the ancient dragon captures its victims into its mouth. We are going to look at desperation from biblical times and desperation in our day-to-day life. Now, we'll start with desperation in our day-to-day life. How does desperation enter us into sexual immorality in our day-to-day life? We shall look at an example of marriages. Siku hizi, msichana akifika 30 years plus na bado hajiolewa, naone mafriends wake wameanza kuolewa, the pressure mounts. The pressure becomes intense. And that applies to wale hawajijui. Cause in this life, kila mtu anakuanga na timing yake ya kila kitu. Just because people are getting married does not mean umechelewa, does not mean you should also rush to get married. So desperation huwa inakapcha wale watu hawajielewi. So in this arena ya marriage, if you are a lady na unaona all your friends are getting married na wewe bado uko pale hata uoni mtu wa kukuchekesha, desperation can lead you into sexual sin. That means kila kijana unakutana na yeye uko so desperate, hata akikwambia let's get into sex nitakuoa, you will go into that. Because you are so desperate to get into marriage that you're ready to do anything. So this desperation of you wanting to get married, usikike uliolewa kama wale wengine, is what will get you into sexual sin, desperation. So as a lady, lazima ujielewe vizuri sana. There's something we call patience. There's something we call God's timing. Seek God, ujue time yako. Do not let desperation ikuingiza into sexual sin at you want to please a man by sleeping with him even before you get married so that you can maintain him. Ati so that he does not back out on the deal, ati ndio bado akuwewe. That is the worst mistake of your life. We should learn to say no to all forms of ungodliness. We should learn to wait on God. Sometimes waiting on God, it is not easy. But trust you me, the results of waiting upon God are worth. So desperation in marriages, in the marriage scenarios, in the marriage sceneries, in the marriage arena is one area that the ancient dragon sexual immorality captures its victims. So you should not fall victim. Inafaa ukae ngumu, focus on the Lord and he will make things beautiful in his own time. Another area of desperation that the ancient dragon captures its victims ni the area of jobs. Tunaishi in a country yenye watu wanasema hakuna jobs. And if you are not careful, you are going to do anything within your means to get a job. So inamaanisha as a lady, as a man, you'll be willing to sell your body to get into sexual sin so that you can get a job. How? Unapeleka CV zako, unaenda interviews, but nothing is working. But kuna huyu mdosi mwenye akona lose morals. Kuna hawa tu wenye they have the influence to get you a job, but they have lose morals. What do they tell you? Kama unataka hii job, you must have sex with me. Who tells you ati ni guarantee ukilala na huyo mtu utapata job? So because you are desperate, you're willing to sleep with this person, to have sex with them so that you can get a job. Sex is not as casual as we think. Na tulisema after this, we are going to look at the consequences of sexual sin. Iyo kitu nasema tini a few minutes then you get a job, it might affect you kule mbele. Number one, you might get a job, yes. But your job haitakupatia raha cause ume get na the wrong foundation. Number two, you're not even guaranteed that after sleeping with this man, ati atakupatia hiyo job. Number 3, utaishi maisha ingine si poa, because this person will be blackmailing you every time they feel like wanakukumbusha, remember how you got this job. So for you to maintain the job, lazima ufanye kenye ulifanya together. That means you will be somebody's slave. Utakokipeana mwili wako, ule tulisema ni hekalu ya Roho Mtakatifu, to maintain a job. Is that really worth it? It is not. We should learn to trust God. We should learn to get things by merit. We should learn kupata mambo na mkono wa Bwana. Because whatever is acquired by the hand of God, hakuna mtu anaweza kukunyang'anya. But don't allow desperation to push you to get into sexual sin ndio get job. That is so wrong. Na hiyo job hata utafurahia. Na hiyo job mwisho wake haitakuwa poa. So it is not good. Let us not allow desperation to push us into sexual sin, whether in marriage or in getting a job. Another way in which desperation inaweza to push into sexual sin is through prostitution. Unaona, we cannot judge prostitutes because we cannot understand where they are coming from. Wengi wao, by the way, they have tried so many things and it's not working. They have children they have to look after. They have families they have to look after, you know. So they get into this. Iyo desperation in our push kuingia into prostitution. Because I don't think kuna mwanaume, by the way, hata wanaume wanaingia into prostitution. I don't think kuna mwanaume ama mwanamke anaweza like sana kupeana mwili wake ati job yake yeye aliumbwa ati for prostitution. God did not create nobodies. Hakuna mtu Mungu aliumba ati akasema wewe purpose yako in this life ni kupeana your body to trade your body for sex. No. Our bodies ni hekalu, not for this or that. Na hakuna mtu mwenye aliambiwa wewe mwili yako ndio hekalu ya huyu sio hekalu. Sisi wote mili yetu inafaa kuwa hekalu. Mili yetu inafaa to please our God, our maker. But desperation imepush men and women into prostitution. Because mtu anaona, how will I take care of my needs? How will I do this and that and that? Ndio maana nasema we should move a notch higher in our faith in God. We should, kuna wenye wanaingia into prostitution because they are lazy, hawataki ku believe in God, hawataki, they want easy money. Iyo story ya hao mi siongei leo. But whether una move in that direction because of loose morals, ama una move in that direction because huna another option, the bottom line is una move in that direction cause ni desperation imekupush. Desperation should not push us into sexual sin. Desperation should not push you into prostitution as a way of making money. That is why you have so many twilight girls. Na siku hizi hata mchana it's happening in our streets in Nairobi, and hata hawafichi na hata watu wanajua. Unaona mtu anatoka job, instead ya kwenda lunch anajua, those ones with loose morals. Tulisema kuna watu when they see anything in the sky they just want to go through. Their London Bridge inaswing kila mahali. So unaona mtu ati lunch hour yake anaispend wapi? Anaenda kufanya prostitution na watu. Ndio, for him ni pleasure. For him or her it's pleasure. But for those people who are there, it's a way of making money. So we should not allow desperation to push us into sexual sin. Because you see, prostitution is already sexual sin. Now we are going to look at biblical ways in which desperation ilipush watu kuingia into sexual sin. And like we said, this dragon is so ancient, ilianzia from way back. I'm only going to major kwa the book of Genesis. People who got desperate and entered into sexual sin or entered others into sexual sin as a result of desperation. Na tunaanza na Genesis 19. Lot akahama mahali alikuwa ana feel so lonely. Mahali penye aliseto, there were no men. And so his daughters got desperate. Wakajiuliza, sasa sisi tuko hapa, hakuna wanaume. What will happen to our future? Sasa sisi hatutaolewa. Sasa sisi hatutapata watoto. And so they made a desperate move that entered them and their father into sexual sin. And so we read. This is Genesis 19 verses 30. We read. Lot and his two daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his two daughters lived in a cave. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to lie with us, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then lie with him and preserve our family line through our father." Imagine, this is a desperate move. That night, they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and lay with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night, I lay with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and lie with him so that you can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went and lay with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. Those were the desperate measures that were taken by Lot's daughters. They got desperate. They felt the need to preserve their family line. Remember, we said after this series, we are going to look at the consequences of sexual sin. And hii story, Lot and the daughters, ilikuwa na the consequences. So, the daughters of Lot entered into sexual immorality or sexual sin because of desperation. They entered their father into sexual sin. They entered themselves into sexual sin because of desperation. Another example we are going to look at is Genesis 16. Genesis 16 is the story of Abraham and Sarah. And we read, "Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children. But she had an Egyptian maidservant named Hagar. So she said to Abram, 'The Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my maidservant. Perhaps I can build a family through her.' Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abraham had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai, his wife, took her Egyptian maidservant Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. So he slept with Hagar and she conceived." Remember, God alikuwa ametokelezea Abraham na akampatia assurance ya kwamba atampatia mtoto. But it was easy said than done. So many years passed by na bado Abraham hawakuwa amepata mtoto. So Sarai got desperate. Akasema, "You know what, my husband Abram, it looks like the Lord has hindered me from having children. So what you are going to do, wewe utaenda na our maid servant ulale na yeye so that at least she can bear us a child." And that is exactly what happened. Abraham akalala na maid servant wake Hagar, and she conceived. And like I keep on saying, sexual sin has got its consequences. Inaweza kuwa very easy ikifanyika. Inaweza kuwa ni an easy fix ikifanyika. But the consequences zinakuanga way beyond us. The consequences zinakuanga so heavy on us. Now, out of desperation, Sarai enters Abram into sexual sin. anamsukumia alale na maid servant wake. So out of desperation, Abraham enters into sexual sin. Out of desperation, Sarai enters Abraham into sexual sin. And a child is born through sexual sin. So that is how far desperation can push us. And that is our father of faith. Desperation ilimfikisha pale. Genesis 30, chapter 1 to 3. And we read, this is the story of Rachel and Jacob. Now, Rachel and Jacob had the same problem that Abraham and Sarah had. Jacob is Abraham's grandson. Now, hii lineage ya Abraham iko na issue ya wives getting married, of the wives getting children. Sarah, Abraham's wife, could not bear children. Isaac had a wife called Rebecca who could not bear children. Now we move on to Jacob, who is the son of Isaac, and now the wife cannot have children. But kuna trap sasa. Rachel na yeye amefanya the same mistake that Sarah made. Rachel entered Jacob into sexual sin out of desperation. And let us read that so that you can have a deeper understanding. Genesis 30. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she became very jealous of her sister. Remember, we all know that Jacob had married two wives, that is Leah and Rachel. Leah hakuwa na mashida ya kupata watoto. Yeye alikuwa anapata watoto. But Rachel hakuwa anapata. So Rachel got jealous because Leah was getting children na yeye hapati. So she got jealous and told Jacob, give me children or I will die. It was that bad. Rachel was that desperate. Aliambia Jacob, give me children or I will die. It was that bad. So Jacob became angry with her and said, am I in the place of God who has kept you from having children? Verses 3, then she said, here is Bilhah, my maid servant. Sleep with her so that she too can bear children for me, and that through her I too can build a family. Now Rachel has repeated the same mistake that Sarah made. Rachel anapeana maid servant wa kwake to her husband ndio azaliwe watoto. Now Jacob went on to do it with a maid servant. And unlike Abraham, who did it once, Rachel alifanya a pattern, alifanya habit. Akiona Leah amezaa, na yeye anasema, you know what, chukua maid servant wangu, pata watoto na yeye. So ilikuwa ni kama some form of competition. So that is how bad desperation can do to us. Alikuwa so desperate to some extent, hata hakumind kuenter Jacob into sexual sin. Another example we are going to look at will be found in Genesis 38. This is the story of Judah and Tamar. Remember, Judah was Joseph's brother. Now, at that time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hira. There, Judah met the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and lay with her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son who was named Er. She conceived again and gave birth to a son named Onan. She gave birth to still another son and named him Shelah. It was at Kezib that she gave birth to him. Now Judah, Joseph's brother, alienda akaoa na akapata 3 sons. Now Judah got a wife for Er, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. So Tamar alikuwa wife wa son wa mbele, firstborn son wa Judah. So Judah got a wife for Er, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. So Tamar ameachwa bila bwana. Then Judah said to Onan, remember Onan now is the second born wa Judah. Akamwambia, lie with your brother's wife now Tamar, and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law to produce offspring for your brother. But Onan knew that the offspring will not be his. So whenever he lay with his brother's wife, who is Tamar, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from producing offsprings for his brother. Very bad. What he did was so wicked in the Lord's sight, so he put him to death. So watoto wawili wa Juda wameuliwa. Sasa kumebaki mmoja, kale ka last born. So Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, live as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up. Now Shelah ni haka kadogo. Juu already, si unaona bwana yake wa mbele alikufa. Wa pili sasa mwenye aliambiwa na the dad ati akae na Tamar amzalishie watoto, alifanya wickedness in the eyes of God, hakutaka kumzalishia, Mungu akamuua. So kamebaki haka kadogo, na haka kadogo akaezi peanwa kwa Tamar juu bado ni kadogo, hakajafika of age. That is number 1. And number 2, Judah in his hearts of hearts aliogopa, akasema huyu mtoto wangu Shelah tena nikimpatiana kwa Tamar naona ni kama atakufa. So what will I do? I'll make up something and tell my daughter-in-law Tamar that aka katoi ni kadogo, so huyu mtoto akiwa mbigi nitakupatia kama husband yako. But Judah ndani yake alijua hapana, what if mtoto wangu wa mwisho sasa akufe? So for he thought he might die just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's house. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up to Timnah to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hilah the Adulamite went with him. When Tamar was told, your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear his sheep, she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that, though Shelah had now grown up, she had not given to him as a wife. Now this is where desperation set in. Judah alikuwa ameambia Tamar that huyu mtoi Shelah akigrow up atampatia kama husband. So Tamar waited and waited and waited. Shelah grew up, but it appears Judah alilenga hiyo story, hata akajifanya kwa ameongea hiyo story. So Tamar got desperate, akashindwa, sasa mimi nitaka hapa kama widow na hata sina watoto mpaka when? So she got desperate and came up with a plan. Venye aliambiwa the father-in-law is going down, akavaa nguo zinakaza harlot, akajua leo ni leo, msema kesho ni muongo. And kitu ingine, the fact that alikuwa amekaa na father-in-law yake for long, alikuwa amejua njia zake. You remember last week we said kuna men who are sexually weak, like they see anything in a skirt they want to go through. They see anything in a skirt and their London Bridge swings all over. Sasa Tamar alikuwa amejua Judah, his father-in-law, has a habit of entering into women anyhowly. Alikuwa anajua the father-in-law has got sexual weaknesses. Ndio akajua leo mbivu na mbichi itaeleweka. Alikataa kunipatia Shelah kama bwanangu, leo ni leo. So this is what she did. So now when Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." Plan ya Tamar ikaingiana. So Tamar slept with his father-in-law. Na ukumbuke, Leviticus 18:6 inasema hakufai kuwa na sexual relationships between watu wako close. Na hata kama huyu alikuwa father-in-law, the fact that ni father-in-law, hiyo inaleta hiyo relationship. So that was actually not proper. But out of desperation ya kuona Sheila grow up, na there's no hope of getting another husband who will give her kids, akajua nyinyi hamjui. I will ensure that I sleep with my father-in-law and I will get babies. And that is exactly what happened. And like venye mi nashinda nikisema, sexual sin has got consequences. Unajua, Judah alidhani this is a prostitute. Kama kawaida, I will go into her, assume nothing has happened, na hiyo story iishe. But this sexual sin caught up with him huko mbele. Tama alikuwa mjanja sana. Kuna vitu alimuitisha. After alilala na yeye, alimuitisha staff yake, a sign of authority, na ring yake. Cause alijua huko mbele kitaumana. Alijua huko mbele akikuwa pregnant na hana bwana, law ilikuwa inasema watu wakuwe stoned. But yeye akajua atajiekea security. Akaambia Judah ni aji, juu haujanilipa, si uniachie some of your things as security, wewe ukinilipa uta. Judah bila kufikiria gave up his stuff and his signet ring. Lakini Tama alijua hii ndio security yangu. I will keep these things until mtoi agrow, pregnancy igrow. Watu wakiona niko na pregnancy, waanze kuuliza maswali o waanze kunijudge, I'll know what to do. Waenda ufanye homework, enda usome what transpired after Tama pregnancy yake ilimuvona ikajulikana ko pregnant, venye kulienda. Judah alikuwa naona get away na sexual sin ya a few minutes, but it caught up with him. And remember, by the way, the devil anajua hakuna sin inakuanga na errors mob na dangers mob kama sexual sin. Sexual sin can hinder destiny. Judah was meant to give birth to kings, and the devil could not thwart that. So alijua atadelay his story ya purpose through this sexual sin. Sexual sin hinders greatness. Sexual sin hinders purpose. Judah was meant to give birth to kings. That is why we have Jesus, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. That is all I had for you today. We should not allow desperation to push us into sexual sin. We should not allow the Asian dragon to capture us through desperation. We should take our desperation to God, because we have a Father who cares. We have a Father who is able to bail us from every situation. It is what it is. My name is Wamoyo Favor, the captain. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you so much for the subscription. You can follow us on Facebook at Kingly Favor Studio Reloaded, TikTok at Kingly Favor Studio Reloaded, Instagram at Kingly Favor Studio Reloaded, and YouTube at Kingly Favor Studio. So long. God bless you.